Every bug is triaged by an AI tool that we built first, and it was clarifying questions when it needs it. It has context to everything we've ever done at the company, and it's had such a meaningful impact on resolution rate, like more than 80% savings in cycle time, we call it, from when the bug was filed to when it's resolved. But in product, like just not having to deal with those distractions, to know that customers being heard is going to be addressed, like an engineer will have everything they need, and we can focus on the more meaningful things that we do.
Welcome to LaunchPod, the show from LogRocket where we sit down with top product and digital leaders. Today, we're talking with Zac Hays, CPO at Luxury Presence, a fast-growing real estate tech platform that made a huge bet on AI adoption across the company. Zac shares their 30x value principle and how they rethought goals and projects to have exponential level impact, the AI design sprint process that allowed the company to 20x product velocity, and how their mandatory AI bug triage policy has cut resolution time by 80%. So here's our episode with Zac Hays. All right, Zac, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm really excited about this one. You got the credentials from background big company, Microsoft, Autodesk. You're at a company called Luxury Presence now, which basically builds software for real estate agents, and maybe not one that people would think is, leading the way in innovation on AI, but you guys are doing some stuff. I think in 70 plus episodes here, you're ahead of almost every single company we've had on, and really interested to dig in and kind of go through how you guys are driving just such growth and innovation using AI to your advantage. Let's kind of start out just with, we talked earlier and you brought this concept of it's not incremental gain. It's not, we want to be a couple times better. The goal is 30x improvement, which is absurd even in the age of AI, right? So how did that come about, and how are you looking at that kind of, let's start from the beginning of like how you looking to get there?
So this is a mantra that I have internally when we're looking at ways to improve how we deliver product. There's so many ways with AI to make yourself a little bit more efficient. You can use ChatGPT to help you write a PRD, and you're going to get incremental gains. And we realize like you really have to think a lot bigger to get the huge unlock. So we asked ourselves, yeah, you can make yourself a little bit more efficient by writing a TRD faster, but what would it look like if you added 30x more value with some workflow change? And it just changes the entire mindset. So what would bug fixing look like if you could do it 30x better? What would a product look like if it was 30x better than the old workflows? And it just opens up people's minds to crazy things.
I like the thought there, because one of the things I've gotten to do is go around the country, and we have this series of dinners for product leaders, CPOs, VPs, and we have everything from POs up to high-level people at really significant, large Fortune 500 organizations. And that's a question that I hear a lot, is how are we getting these big gains? Because at some level, the amount of work and value the society's put into AI is not justified if we get a 1.5x increase. But at those dinners, we have a guy named Ajay Desway who's been all over. He was an executive at Twitter, at Calendly, at Typeform, at Microsoft. And his point is, you can't think about it from a 1.52x way. He would love your take on this, because at heart, for every company that's going to be meaningful, likely right now, there's some kids at YC who are building that company from scratch, and they are not constrained by anything we've done before. And they're going to build it in the world of AI first. And they're targeting 30x or more. So if we're not looking at how do we do that ourselves, there's high risk there that you get innovated on. And I love that, that was just the native way that you dug in. So let's just go right into it. How did you start there? And what does that look like for a product team at a company of your guys' size?
We actually got tinkering with AI pretty early on because we saw an actual opportunity to make ourselves a little bit more efficient in delivering services for our customers. What our company does is we started with making gorgeous websites for real estate agents. And there's a lot of manual processes that go into that. And then we layered on marketing on their behalf, pulling us into CRM. And eventually we're going to be, the full stack SaaS, vertical SaaS play. But some of the things that we used to do was we had a team that would write blogs on behalf of our clients so they could add it to their website and put it in their marketing. We do social media on behalf of our clients. And when ChatGPT came out, it was like, oh, clearly this thing's going to help us write blogs better, faster. And so we actually started tinkering with that workflow. We used a tool called AirOps, which is Innate-In is another tool we use. Just these like kind of low code, no code tools to stitch together workflows. And turns out that our team could write really great blogs at extreme scale, and it actually started outperforming some of the content that we used to produce manually. So we decided we could kind of offer that to almost all of our clients because it was so efficient. But you start to hit these micro bottlenecks as you go. They're really fun to unlock. Like one of them was, we're creating all these blogs. Like we don't have enough Shutterstock images to make every blog look unique anymore. It's, well, could AI generate the images for all these blogs? Yes. I mean, it took some tinkering and the technology's improved a lot. So we just kind of chipped away at these little problems, starting with a customer problem, and learned all these tips and tricks for ourselves. So now most of my PMs are capable to do these workflows themselves using innate end tools. They're all excited to build workflows internally for themselves, for other teams. Our engineers are fully in on Claude Code, and they don't write code anymore. They just review PRs and tell the code what to do. So we started the journey a little early, but it's been amazing. Some of the unlocks that we've gotten along the way.
When you say writing blogs, is this, because for real estate agents, is this kind of the posts about the properties and things like that?
Yeah, it's mainly like SEO content, and we could do a whole other podcast about what's changing in SEO world right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah. God, we know about
But
that.
it's things like 7 ways to prepare your San Francisco home to be sold, like that type of content, just to fill out their blog and get some SEO juice. And it turns out that AI is exceptional at writing this type of stuff. And we originally were creating it just with ChatGPT, and it would hallucinate a bit, but also it would just talk about restaurants that were no longer open and like these little details that you wouldn't think about until you're in it. And I think a lot of us are learning as you go building these types of products and workflows internally. You could never write a PRD up front that says handle all these edge cases because you just can't think of them until you're in it. Like you just have to try this stuff and start from somewhere. So obviously we think big, that 30x thing, but my advice to everyone else is think big and find a way to start small. There is something you can do that is small that will unlock the next problem you want to solve. But that's our mindset.
Right. Not to dig into like blog writing, because that's not super applicable to everyone, but as a process kind of thought experiment, right? When GPT-3 came out, if you tried to just have it auto write blogs, it was probably going to be not that great. Like it's pretty easy to tell human from not human at that point. But like you said, it also hallucinates. It pulls in fake restaurants or restaurants that are closed and all that. But as these models have progressed over time, you start to solve, okay, now it can actually search real time and not pull in closed restaurants. It doesn't need to hallucinate because it has access to the world and can understand what the restaurants actually are. You can build the data set it needs for that.
And you can solve those problems yourself too. So before it knew how to research what restaurants were open, we just hooked up to Yelp's API. Like, I think you got to get in there and find these problems. Yes, the tech is probably going to catch up, but if you wait, then you're like that story said, some startup is going to displace you because they're not waiting for it to be solved by OpenAI.
And the thing is, you don't start from, let's just put a little AI chatbot in here, or hey, let's write some blog posts from using AI and move on. It's imagining a world where we have people writing blog posts. Now, what if we just never needed to and we could do it for every customer? If we didn't need people to do it. If you start to look at those questions, it doesn't matter if it's, in your guys' case, it was blog production. In our case, we do session replay and analytics is the foundational kind of ingestion technology, but we ask the question, what if you could watch every single session and pull out the salient information, correlate it, have infinite context in your head, and be able to tell what the important bits were that you needed to look at as like you, a product person. It's a good model to look at. And maybe you said something and then we kind of moved on, but the think big but start small. What did that look like over at Luxury Presence?
The blog writing one, like that was a good example of we just started super small. But one that still blows my mind daily is we were thinking, okay, how could we use Dev and AI and some of these new agents to solve bug tickets faster? So we actually get a lot of issues that come up because we're dealing with MLS data, which is the more blitzing service. There's 400 of them across the US. It's all user inputted data. So we get things like, why are my images not showing up on this one property? So it's not like a system-wide bug. It's just this tiny little thing. It requires a lot of investigation. Was the URL formatted appropriately at the source? Did we have something in transmission? Is it some permissions issue? We used to have a team that would have to go through and scrub through all that. And we said, okay, well, what if AI just did this automatically? And we said, okay, well, we can't just flip some switch and make that happen, but let's just go through what a human does. They triage it, they check if it's in the database. Oh, well, that's like a small step we could probably automate. And we just had an AI workflow that did that. Okay, well, what's the next step that a person would do? And you just kind of go down this list and say, okay, well, that person's the expert. They have all this context. And so, okay, well, how does the AI get the context? Well, it's actually in our code base, you have, okay, well, how do we cook? So you just start to chip away at these little things. And then now we have every bug is triaged by an AI tool that we built first. And it wants clarifying questions when it needs it. It has context to everything we've ever done at the company. And it's had such a meaningful impact on resolution rate, like more than 80% savings in cycle time, we call it, from when the bug was filed to when it's resolved. And that's going to go to 99% at some point. But in product, like just not having to deal with those distractions, to just know that customer is being heard, it's going to be addressed, Like an engineer will have everything they need if they need to get involved, and we can focus on the more meaningful things that we do.
I bet the big payoff, even beyond that, is engineers don't have to context switch as much. They can focus on flow state more. They can focus on the big, hairy problems that are interesting and going to drive growth of their company, not just solving some small problem for one customer.
Hear these stories about the headlines of, oh, Zach told me that every bug is triaged by it. You look around for, okay, where's the magic wand to go from where I'm at now to this magical thing that he just described? It's like, it doesn't exist. That's not how anyone built this stuff. They all just iterated small, and you can have huge outcomes, but you have to find somewhere to start.
That was not like you went from no automation to that overnight. It was incremental gains. They're going to have big impact when you compound them.
You can easily, with this stuff, get 1% improvement every single day.
Yeah.
Easily. And so if you just do that math, like it doesn't take you that long to get 30x improvements.
So thinking about this idea of incremental improvement, one thing you kind of talked about when we caught up a little earlier that caught my eye was this idea of AI design sprints. What does that look like? Like in practice, it's easy to say, oh, we have AI design sprints, but what does that actually mean? Like how is the team operating and what are the tools enable in the process that enable them to do this kind of doing 20 times more bets than they used to be able to?
Yeah, so this is when my eyes were first open to a new way of thinking. And we talk about taking the red pill, like the Matrix reference. So I took the red pill about a year ago. First time I tried V0, the prototyping tools, they're all getting pretty similar. And it's just, wow, like this is amazing that this tool not only took what was in my head, but also added things that I didn't even think about. And at the same time, we had scheduled a design sprint. So this used to be a big part of our playbook. And I had this thing on the schedule, this 5-day design sprint, and I actually had lunch with our CTO, and I sat down and I was like, I use this new tool, V0. It's like all these playbooks we used to have, we've been doing this together for a long time. We have to throw all this out the window. Like, I don't know how to do product anymore. It's all drastically changing. Anyway, so because I was going through the design sprint schedule, I was like, well, day one is supposed to be high level problem define. Yeah, we'll do that. And day 2 is like sketching. I was like, do we need to do that? And day 3 is storyboarding. I was like, well, day 4 is a prototype. I was like, I just made a prototype yesterday in 20 minutes. Could we just skip to prototype? And then the last day is testing with users. I was like, well, how much could we do this? So we shortened it to 3 days. We still did the first day of learning. And then the second day, we all picked different tools, V0, Bold, Lovable, and said, you got an hour? Come back with a prototype and show it off. I mean, these used to be things that like, we'd swarm, the whole team would work on one prototype for a whole day. And it would be basically a Figma prototype. Like it wouldn't even be something that was very clickable. And so they were all a little shocked back then. And I think we've all normalized how easy building a prototype can be. And so we had 12 prototypes. We show them off. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. Then we sort of cooled down we teamed up and got down to 6 prototypes. And our goal was to get down to 1 because we thought that's what the outcome should be. And we had 4 different ones that were all like really interesting. And so we said, well, can we just test all these? Well, we don't have enough users. So we threw them up on unmoderated user testing tool. We used UserBrain. There's a lot of cool ones. And the next day we had 4 prototypes that each had actual user feedback and all these insights. The speed was absolutely amazing. And the surprising thing is like no one fell in love with any of their solutions because it was like barely theirs. Like some of the stuff you work on for so long, these designs, you really fall in love with them. It's so ephemeral now working in this speed. So it's just, oh, that didn't work. This didn't work. Oh, that crazy idea I had's not working. AI had this idea. Let's go with that instead. So yeah, it was really amazing.
We had Non-Yu, he's the head of product at Linear, on the show a couple weeks back. And he brought up a similar thing, which was you have to look at it this way of innovating. And he said 10x, but I think the magnitude is the same, is the cost of trying things when it goes so low. Now you can take the long shot bet that maybe had a 10% success chance, but had a pretty high payoff. Before that's too risky. We're not going to do that. But now you can validate, disqualify the bad ones almost in 0 time.
Speaking of like taking more bets, tech debt is ridiculously cheap to start to tackle. So I think anyone that's been through like a re-platforming project, like it's just take years sometimes, and it's like just really painful as a product person to not deliver value, and like your whole team sucked into this vortex. But with AI coding and some of the things we can do now, like we actually have a project right now that we're close to wrapping up where we've essentially rewritten our entire code base. It's not that old, 8 9 years. Some decisions were popular 7 years ago, and then someone else came in, has a different pattern. The reason why we started doing this is because our AI agents were getting confused at what they should do because the code base was inconsistent. And so we said, well, what would it look like if we just rewrote almost everything? Yeah, well, you would never do that. You guys are a startup. Well, what would it look like if we did? And it's not that hard anymore to you're going to have to test everything. You need an automated test, which you should have anyway. And then you can just go module by module and just sort of hit delete and rewrite. It's absolutely amazing. And the cost for those projects is just dropping so fast from actual like human input, and the payoff is unknown. Like how much payoff could you get if you had a super clean code base that agents could go through, and then they all need to be able to spin up their own versions of local environments, and you have all these you hit these really interesting bottlenecks as you start to scale this stuff up that I think are fascinating, and our team loves is to find them and tackle them.
With the ability to kind of like spin ideas up faster and try them, is there anything kind of unexpected you've discovered, something that worked maybe that you weren't sure how you kind of low confidence maybe wouldn't have done before in a higher cost environment that has worked really well, has paid off? Like there's some product that kind of you were able to ship that probably would have never seen the light of day, or some insight you've gotten here?
We have these debates about it's really hard to not ground yourself in what's possible today. So when we were doing the blog thing, generating images that look gorgeous about real estate that don't need human oversight, like we had a lot of skeptics that were like, no, we still are going to need Shutterstock. Potentially, we just need a tool that can be better at selecting these images for the blogs. And that we got to have great curated images. And a few of us, including me, stuck to our guns and said, this is going to get solved. By the time we need to ship this, technology will catch up. It's moving at a speed that is just no one has seen this level of innovation this quickly. So how do you get out of the like first impression of, oh yeah, I tried it. You got 6 fingers on somebody. It's not ready. But it could be ready tomorrow. Like you have to be able to unlearn everything you just learned like, in a day. And how do you consistently, the old Wayne Gretzky thing, how do you constantly skating to where the puck's going to be is so hard because it feels like it's light years out there, even though it's just a couple of weeks potentially.
On that light, right? Like one of the stories I heard that blew my mind was, and I had kind of a personal connection to this, so I always come back to it, is we had at one point an early employee here who was with us for a lot of years. She's on the content team and then fantastic marketer, and ended up going to this little company that I hadn't really heard of. Objectively, they hadn't been doing great. Their ARR growth was pretty low and stagnant. And I think they've been around for 7 years, and we're at something like 40,000 MRR, ARR, 600,000 ARR, some like pretty low number for how long they've been around. And they were kind of like burning money and not making it back. So they were in trouble. And we were kind of like, why are you going to this company? I don't know if that's a great idea. And she had high conviction on it that something special was there that we weren't seeing. The listeners might know this company better now, not as its original name, but as Bolt, the AI code tool. And the founder, Eric, was giving an interview and talked about basically they had built all the pieces they needed for Bolt to be the magical thing that it is. Aside from none of the code agents for AI were at the level that could execute yet. And then literally there was I think it was Claude 2.5 or something. And it was just a binary, now it works. And they, basically tested it and it worked. And they, I think one tweet about it. And it went from 0 ARR to 30 million ARR in like a month or something. And 16, I don't know where it is now, but anecdote, I think I heard something like 80 in under a year, which is just utterly absurd. But that's the thing, is you have to be, like you said, skate to where the puck is. They were skating to where that puck was for quite a while. And when they got there, holy crap.
Looking back, it seems obvious now to everyone that's followed this, but that felt like impossible to most people to say, no, trust us, in a year, AI is going to be able to make an entire prototype that you could use, and it's going to be amazing. So you kind of have to have the leap of faith that it's going to be ready, because it probably will.
Right. I mean, I'm waiting for someone to codify the way we had like Moore's law, right, about compute power and size you could put on different chips and stuff, where people were building devices and things like that for where they thought, where it was projecting that tech was going to be. And those were part of what made Apple great and several other companies, was they were looking at not where are we now when we started to design this thing, but like, where's it going to be in a year when we actually are putting the components in, and let's get ready for that. I'm curious to hear about what does this actually look like in product, like this concept of, and as a marketer, I kind of just love this, the autonomous AI marketing team for real estate agents. From a product perspective, like how do you look at solving the right problems and then applying this speed to that?
There's so many startups and big companies that are like, oh, we need to have AI in our product, and they slap some chatbot copilot somewhere and it's useless. So we took it from a purely first principle standpoint of, if we were to coach a real estate agent on the best way to do their marketing, what would we tell them to do? So let's say you had all the experts in the world. Well, you would have somebody optimizing your website for SEO. We used to do that manually all the time. We know how to do it. It's a lot of investigating SEM rush, finding gaps in keywords that you can compete for. Like, we know all the steps. And then we just started chipping away at all the steps so that now we have an autonomous agent that will optimize your website for SEO and for showing up in LLMs and things like that, because it's the same steps that a human would do. Same thing with, we have an AI agent that if a contact inquiry comes to your website and says, hey, I'm interested in an open house, what would a human do? They would text them back as soon as they could and say, great, are you pre-qualified? Let me get some more information. That's what our texting bot does. So we just think exactly what would an expert human do? And can AI start to chip away at that so that we can offer it at scale to all of our customers? And many of our customers are very small business, like solopreneurs, and they can't afford to have a team of marketing experts, so we can give it to them.
With some of the capabilities of AI and agents, a mildly interesting thing is, can you be a little bit more productive, right? Can you do something faster, 30%, 40%, hell, even 100% faster? Ultimately, it's not that interesting, right? Those gains probably would have happened with just workflow improvement. When you start to look at, can you take the cost, and time is a cost, but can you take the cost to basically zero? You can start to do jobs that you just couldn't do before become possible. And that's, taking that solopreneur who I've worked with a bunch of small businesses and stuff, and they're never, if you were just one person, you're not going to do the website optimization because you don't have time, you probably don't have the know-how to do it. Even if you did, you're not going to do it because you don't have time. You don't have time to do the follow-up. You don't have time to do all those things as fast as possible. And if you had 3 or 4 or 5 other people on your team there, that's, I think exponential starts to even undersell it. Like, logarithmic gain is, can you add complete functions that they would just cost-wise never have been able to have before? And now they can have that full capability. So that's the interesting thing, is how do you solve those problems?
AI, air quotes, is not differentiated anymore. Like, I live in San Francisco. Every single billboard in the whole city says AI on it somewhere.
Yeah. I was there recently. It is wild.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something really funny? Actually, billboards have gotten so popular in San Francisco. You can't even, if you wanted to buy one today, it's almost impossible until March. It's just completely wrapped up, which is funny because, we've both been around long enough. I remember the time when they were discounted. Companies were having trouble giving them away at sometimes.
It's mainly just one-upsmanship. If your company has a billboard in a specific spot, it's easier to recruit. Like, I don't think they're trying to actually sell anything with those. It's all about recruiting and wooing investors and things like that.
It's interesting to see when you apply the functional model of, let's solve problems exponentially faster and be able to take more bets, and then look at what would a world look like if customers could do all these things that were just impossible before, or if we removed all constraint from time of work and stuff like that. I think it's interesting to see that output is, as a marketer, what I think is a cool platform, but also how that impacts to revenue, where growth is happening very quickly over there, and you start to see the effect of, the theory is great, but when the theory works, is even better.
We've got lots of ideas for more agents that are coming, so we'll continue to add more value.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on again. I always used to say, we have to have you on in a year, but in AI time, a year might as well
feels
be
like infinity from now.
Yeah, 10 bajillion years. So let's stay in touch, and when you do some new cool stuff, let's have you back on and go through how you guys are building other stuff. If people want to reach out to you and find out the AI design sprint process you've got, or kind of how you guys are moving quickly and doing some of these things, is LinkedIn the best place to reach out to you, or what's a good spot?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I actually wrote a playbook for that AI design sprint that someone can download directly from my LinkedIn page.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll put a link to that on the show notes. And yeah, thanks for coming on. And everyone listening, if this was useful and you learned from Zac, and you want to learn from more people who are doing real things with AI and building and managing and growing companies, what we ask is subscribe, and that'll make sure you see the episodes. But the number one thing you can do, if I ask one thing, tell a friend, tell a colleague, tell someone who's going to get value out of this. That's really how we get to do more and more of this and talk to more great people. Zac, it was great to have you, man. Thank you so much for spending the time with us this afternoon.
Yeah, this is great. I'll look forward to coming back sometime.
Sounds good. All right, man. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks.